Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda. So this is verse 6. Sorry, verse 199 in the chapter 6 of Antya Lila. So this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaking to Raghunath Das. The verse says, Tatapi Vishayera Swabhava Kare Maha Anda Se Karma Karaya Jate Haya Bhava Bandha. Translation: those who are attached to materialistic life or blind to spiritual life must act in such a way that they are bound to repeated birth and death by the actions and reactions of their activities. Purport: as clearly stated in the Bhagavad Gita 3.9, Yagyartat karmano anyatra loko ayam karma bandhanaha. If one does not act as a pure devotee, whatever acts he performs will produce reactions of fruitive bondage, karma bandhana. 554, it is said, Nunam pramatta kurute vikarma yad indriya pritaye apranoti nasadu manye yate atmano ayam asanapi kleshada asadeha. A materialistic person madly engaged in activities for sense enjoyment does not know that he is entangling himself in repeated birth and death, and that his body, although temporary, is full of miseries. A Vishayi, a person blindly caught in a web of materialistic life, remains in the cycle of birth and death perpetually. Such a person cannot understand how to execute pure devotional service, and therefore he acts as a karmi, jnani, yogi, or something else according to his desire. But he does not know that the activities of karma, jnana, and yoga simply bind one to the cycle of birth and death. This is verse 200. Hena Vishaya Haite Krishna Udharila Thoma Kahana Na Yaya Krishna Kripara Mahima. By his own free will, Lord Krishna has delivered you from such a condemned materialistic life. Therefore, the glories of Lord Krishna's costless mercy cannot be expressed. Purport: in the Brahma Samhita 5.54, it is said, Karmani nirdahati kintucha bhakti bhajam. Lord Krishna is so merciful that he can stop the reactions of karma for his devotee. Everyone, from small insect called Indra Gopa up to Indra, the king of heaven, is bound by the reactions of fruitive activities. Estu Indra Gopam Atavendram Aho Swakarma Bandhanurupa phalabhajanam atanoti karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhajam govindam adipurusham tamaham bhajami. Everyone, whether an insect or the king of heaven, is entangled and bound by the actions and reactions of his karma. However, when one becomes a pure devotee, free from material desires and from bondage to karma, jnana, and yoga, one is freed from material actions and reactions by the causeless mercy of Krishna. One cannot express sufficient gratitude to Krishna for being freed from materialistic way of life. Om Jnana Timrandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militamena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Devamrita Swaminiti Namini. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pasyatya Desi. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare. This chapter, this pastime is actually one of my favorites in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And whatever in our estimation we think somebody is great, and what our idea of success is in life, but we have this concoction. What is success? What is happiness? And what is greatness? Like this. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his view, in his estimation, these things that a conditioned soul desires and aspires is disgusting. Like he told Raghunath Goswami, your father and uncle, they're, in village terms, they're my relatives, so don't mind me speaking like this. So he said, even though they give charity and they perform rituals and like this, but they're not pure devotees. They're not Vaishnavas, Mahaprabhu said. They are like Vaishnavas. In Sanskrit, people that are like born in Brahmana family, but they don't behave like a Brahmana. They're called Dvija Bandhu or Brahma Bandhu. Similarly, we cannot cheat the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Mahaprabhu, even though the most merciful incarnation, still he can see the heart of the conditioned soul, and he says, your uncle and father, they're not devotees. And Mahaprabhu says, if you don't mind me saying, they're like two worms in stool. And if you take a worm out of the stool, by his free will, he'll just crawl back into it. Like that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, only Krishna's mercy, causeless mercy, you were able to escape this stool-like existence, opulence. He was, Raghunath Das Goswami, we know the pastime. I'm sure you've been hearing this whole chapter. He was married to this most beautiful lady, and he had so much opulence. He was beautiful. He was the only, hair for the whole wealth. All these things he had, but Mahaprabhu was not impressed. And he said only by Krishna's mercy you were able to escape that. That's actually like really amazing statement. And he was, how do you say, like unstoppable. You know, this is Prabhupada keeps repeating in his lectures and purports. You know, this is a science. We can't fake it. We can't, you know, imitate. It has to be like spontaneous. It has to happen naturally. So if somebody is Krishna conscious, there are signs and symptoms through which you can recognize. And somebody is not, somebody is materialistic, that also shows. And sometimes we want we want to have both. We want to serve Krishna, but then it's like, you know, you have a garden for Krishna, and then we say like, okay, there's a small patch, you know, we keep for ourselves, and we tell Krishna, don't come near this small patch. Like this, uh, you know, it's a sign and symptom. So Raghunath Das Goswami's lifestyle, we can see he was so serious. He was completely determined. Whether in the life story of Raghunath Das Goswami, or even when we were reading, um, you know, Damodar Lila, how Mother Yashoda was trying to bind Krishna, and the pastime of Bilva Mangal Thakur, or, you know, we read pastimes of Yamunacharya. Like this, these were all determined devotees. Therefore, they had Krishna. Like we know the famous story Prabhupada tells of Bilumangal Thakur. He was super enthusiastic in his material life. We know the story how his father passed away, and the Brahmana, the priest, was doing a funeral ceremony. But his mind was set on this lady, his girlfriend, prostitute, Chintamani. So it was like a fever. It was like he was so driven by this thought and idea of enjoying her that he was actually like rushing the priest. He said to her, he said to the priest, like, please, hurry up. You know, I have something very important to do. And the priest couldn't even understand, like, what could be more important, you know, other than what's going on here. So he went, and there was heavy rain and storm, and you know, it's very dangerous weather, and the river was flooding, and he had to cross the river to get to the house of Chintamani. So he was so focused, he was so absorbed in his head of going to see her, that there, you know, no, he didn't see any obstacles. Like even the materialistic authors, they say, when you don't have a goal, when you don't have a focus, that's when you start seeing all kinds of obstacles. But if we are focused on the goal, we are determined, then there's no obstacles, you only see the goal. Like, you know, Arjuna only saw the eye of the bird. All the other students, they saw the branches and leaves and like this. So Bilu Mangal Thakur, he was so absorbed in Chintamani, thought of Chintamani. He jumped into the flooding river, and he was trying hard to swim, you know, making sure he doesn't drown. And he thought he grabbed onto a log of wood to cross, but it was a dead body. Didn't matter, he just used the dead body to go from one side of the river to the other, from the ghat, from the funeral god. And then he ran and ran and ran, and then he reached the house of Chintamani. And she was upstairs, and it was such bad weather, she couldn't hear him knock and knock and knock. So he used a vine. He thought he was a vine to climb to the top floor. And then after he let go of it, he realized he was holding on to a python. He used a python to climb to the first floor. And he was pounding on the door. And when Chintamani opened the door, she didn't expect him to come. Because she knew like he had to go to a funeral ceremony and such bad weather outside, and she didn't think he's going to come, but Bilwa Mangal Thakur actually shocked her. And Chintamani, being a devotee of Krishna, she had this realization. So she told Bilwa Mangal Thakur, "Oh my God, only if you had such determination to attain Krishna, that'll be something else. That'll be like so amazing." So again, Bilwa Mangal Thakur is also an exalted person, not ordinary person from previous lives. All this memory came to him about his Krishna consciousness, just like we read the stories of Bharat Maharaj and Gajendra and so many, Ajamil. Nothing is wasted when we serve Krishna. It's preserved. Krishna says, Tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshema mahamyam. I provide whatever my devotee needs, especially like the memory about him, the consciousness. Krishna says, I carry what you lack and I preserve what you have. So Bilwa Mangal Thakur got this awakening when she said that. So he left. He was embarrassed. He left and he wanted to go to Vrindavan to attain Krishna. Well, what happened is, due to his conditioning, on the way again, he saw another beautiful lady, and he started following her spontaneously. And then it so happened she was a married woman, and she ran to her husband and said, "This man is following me, it's kind of strange." And the husband, being so pious and respectful, he said to her, he's a Brahmana, we have to see what he wants. Let's see what he wants. So they both went to him and said, "What can we do for you? How can we please you like that?" And Bilwa Mangal Thakur, he felt so, sad and discouraged. He said, these senses are my worst enemies. They keep dragging me into this, ditch of material existence. So he asked the lady, "Oh, Mata, can you please give me your hairpin?" She had this hairpin. And then she gave it to him. He didn't know what's that for. So he was so determined to attain Krishna, he just plucked out his own eyeballs. He said, "These eyes are interfering so much from me attaining Krishna. So they're my enemy." So again, this is an extreme example, and these are not ordinary personalities. So please don't try it at home. So he plucked out his own eyes, wanting to just focus on Krishna. See, people want to see God, like, Bhakti Siddhanta would say, it's just eye exercise. Like when Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was giving class one time in Radha Kund, and there was a temple nearby, Seshra Sai temple, I think it's called. And the disciples got up to leave so they can go and have darshan. And Bhakti Siddhanta asked them, where are you going? I'm speaking here. And they said, oh, the temple last darshan is about to close, so we're going. And Bhakti Siddhanta told him, what nonsense, what will you see there? Bhakti Siddhanta said, you'll just see some stone. And it's just eye exercise, you opening and closing your eyelids. And he said, if you don't listen, if you don't hear from your spiritual master and devotees, you're not going to be able to see Krishna, even if Krishna is in front of you. So Bilu Mangal Thakur was going to Vrindavan to attain Krishna, but he got rid of his eyes, knowing Krishna can be attained through sound vibration, through his holy names. You can hear Krishna. Same thing, the pastime of Kuresh, Kuratarvar. He got punished by this king Kulatunga. He lost his eyes, they plucked his eyes out. But when he sang and sang and sang to Varadaraja Swami, his famous prayers, Varadaraja Stavam. And when the Lord asked him, what can I do for you? He said, nothing. I'm just satisfied chanting your glories. He said, no, please, please, ask me. And Quresh said, please excuse my disciple that caused all this trouble. He said, okay. Again, he went back to Ramanujacharya, was still blind. So Ramanujacharya sent him again to Varadaraja Swami. Again he sang, and Lord spoke to him. He said, what can I do for you? I said, the king that caused all this trouble, please excuse him. The king had this raging cancer and went to hell for offending such great devotees like Ramanuja and Koresh. So Koresh asked the Lord to forgive the king. And the Lord said, do you want anything else? He said, no, thank you. And the third time he went back, he went to Ramanujacharya. Ramanujacharya got upset, said, your eyes belong to me. You lost something that belongs to me. And you're so puffed up. You keep coming back when the Lord himself is offering you the opportunity to give your eyes back. So he again went back and he sang. And the Lord offered him anything he wanted. He said, oh, please let me see you and my guru. That's all. I don't want anything else. I don't want to see anything else of this world. Even Gaura Kishore Das Babaji. Sorry, I'm on a roll. All these pastimes about eyes are coming to mind. So Gaura Kishore Das Babaji, when he had cataract, he didn't want them removed. He didn't said, please don't take me to hell. Don't take me to Calcutta. He said, Calcutta is hell. Gaura Kishore Das Babaji said to Bhakti Siddhanta, don't go to Calcutta, don't accept disciples. And he didn't even want, he said, Gaura Kishore Das Babaji told Bhakti Siddhanta, who is going to even appreciate or understand these books? Just focus on yourself first, like this. So great devotees, they don't really give importance to this material senses. They know, Krishna can be attained even without able to see him with this fleshly eye. Anyway, Bilu Mangal Thakur went to Vrindavan and he wrote so many books and poems, and he dedicated at least one of the books to the prostitute Chintamani. He considered her to be his spiritual master, because anybody helps us in any way to come to Krishna, we should be eternally indebted to him. What to speak of speaking bad about them? Sometimes we even speak bad about our mentors and Siksha Guru and Diksha Guru and people that are even helped us or helping us in Krishna consciousness. We try to find fault in their life, or in even the smallest thing we try to find fault. But this is not a good sign. It's not a good sign, because Bhagavatam is meant for nirmatsaranam satam. Matsara. We have to give up this matsara, then we can understand Bhagavat. Like this famous pastime where Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, he was even praying for these cancer cells in his body that was killing him. So this is nirmatsara, means this is a devotee. Means doesn't matter what fault anyone has. We should, unless we are in the position to help that person, we shouldn't get involved in gossiping and backbiting and backstabbing. This is very detrimental to our spiritual life. So Bilumangal Thakur wrote so many poems, and he got, somebody's mic is not muted, I think. So he got the mercy of Krishna. Of course, he is an eternally liberated soul, and Krishna would come to him and bring him milk. Krishna would bring him milk and come to him. And apparently, Bilumangal Thakur lived for hundreds of years. If I remember correctly, he lived for 700 years. So amazing personality and pastime. What I meant to say was determination. He had such determination to attain Krishna. Just like we read in this chapter 6 of Antya Lila, how determined Raghunath Das Goswami was. Nothing was stopping him. Like we read how, in the Kartik month, Mother Yashoda tried to bind Krishna, and it was not possible. But she was not willing to give up. There's no inside of or outside for Krishna, so how can you bind him? So she got the help of all the neighbors, and she was so determined, so much so she was perspiring. Sometimes Krishna likes to see us perspire before he will allow some success, because it's not a cheap thing to have Krishna's service and like this, to attain Krishna. So Mother Yashoda was determined to bind Krishna. So the Acharya said that 2 fingers too short. One finger represents the endeavor of the devotee, and the other finger represents the mercy of Krishna. So that's what the 2. So it's not cheap. Like we hear all the time, like, this whole world is poisoned by Mayavadi philosophy. So very easily, any of us, I'm sure we heard, people talking about Mayavad. Like, recently I heard a lecture Prabhupada was saying, as soon as somebody comes to the, spiritual path, immediately they come to the conclusion, God is Nirakar, God has no form. And Prabhupada said, why? Why you come to that conclusion? What makes you think that? The source of everything, Sad Aishwarya Purnam, Supreme Bhagavan, and he's lacking something, namely the form. So why you come to the conclusion, Prabhupada would say. And people think that's actually a very advanced platform. And the Mayavadi philosophy is like, oh, when it happens, it happens. When God wants, it'll happen. We don't need to do anything. We just have to be silent, and we just have to be like, Om Shanti, Shanti, and just meditate on Brahman and like this. But that's not our philosophy. That's not our philosophy. Um, our philosophy is very enthusiastically approaching and serving Krishna. Prabhupada was saying recently in a lecture, like everything has signs and symptoms. The symptom, Prabhupada said, even if somebody is morose, that means Maya has attacked them. And Prabhupada said, a devotee is happy. Devotee is happy. If somebody is morose, Prabhupada said, or lethargy and laziness. Prabhupada said, if you're not able to get up in the morning, that's the sign that Bhagavad Bhakti is lacking, Prabhupada said. Or Prabhupada said, if we are active without Krishna consciousness, that's also dangerous. To be lazy is dangerous. To be active, Prabhupada says, just like a monkey, very active, but always doing something mischievous and nobody likes it. And Prabhupada was speaking in Vrindavan. He said, as soon as the monkey comes, immediately somebody says, "Hut." Sorry, I keep getting all these calls. So nobody likes this, the active monkey. Or Prabhupada said, being lazy is also not good. Prabhupada said, everything, there's signs and symptoms. Like one time somebody said to Prabhupada, oh, you Vaishnavas, you don't do much, and like that. And Prabhupada said, that means you have not come across real Vaishnava. Prabhupada said, Hanuman is a Vaishnava. Look how much active he was in the Ramayana. He burned down the whole Swarna Lanka. And Arjuna is a Vaishnava. See how active Arjuna was in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, like this. So if we are a devotee of Krishna, there is signs and symptoms. Just like Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada just took, a trunk load of books and oats and some rupees and just boarded Jaladuta and just sailed to the US. There was nothing that's going to stop him in his determination. I was hearing pastimes about Yamuna Acharya. Prabhupada says king means, wine and woman. But when, he got this awakening, again, it's not an ordinary personality. It's an Nityasuri, eternal associate of Lord Narayana. But temporarily, he was showing to us how dangerous Maya is if we are lax. This young boy, he got adopted by the king and queen. And he was so busy because the neighboring kingdom, the neighboring kings, they can see that, oh, this little boy in charge now, let's easily take over like that. So they were attacking. and he had to constantly fight back. And he was, had so much opulence, money, and woman, and like that. So temporarily, he didn't spend time with Krishna. But his grandfather, Natha Muni, sent this one of his disciples to go bring Yamunacharya back to Krishna consciousness. So this devotee that was sent by Natha Muni came and he said, "Oh, your grandfather's left a huge, vast treasure for you back in Sri Rangam. You have to come. But you have to come alone. You can't bring any of your men." So as they were walking, first time in a long time, Yamunacharya starts hearing the Gita. They would read a chapter of Gita every day. And by the time they attained, they reached the 18th chapter, again, this, back to Krishna consciousness. He was so embarrassed and he was so determined, embarrassed that he forgot about Krishna. And he was so determined again to serve Krishna. He wanted to serve Krishna. The famous verse Prabhupada quotes all the time. Yadavadi mama chitta Krishna padaravinde navanava rasadamni udayatum rantimasi. Tadavadi bhattanari sangame smaryamane mukho vikare shushtu nishtivanamcha. He said, Yamunacharya prays that whatever I was after, whatever the whole world is after, namely sex life. But now that I'm tasting Krishna consciousness, I don't want any of that stuff. I don't want any more inheritance or woman or like that. Rather, I'm disgusted at the thought. A pure devotee can imagine conditioned souls uselessly laboring to acquire wealth and sex and like this. So he was, in his prayers, he is regretting. I said, now that I'm Krishna conscious, I've tasted Krishna consciousness, I spit at the thought. He was so determined. He gave up everything. He even told the devotee Ram Mishra that came to get him, he said, I don't even want the wealth. And then the devotee told Yamunacharya, oh, it's not an ordinary wealth that you think it is. We're talking about Sri Rangana. And then he was very happy to hear that. So like that, there's countless examples. But the point is, we cannot cheat Krishna. We cannot say, just like old people in India, they say, oh, I don't want anything from this world, and this world is a miserable place. I just want to go back to God. I just want Bhagavan. But then they're enjoying the material world like anything, at least they try. So if we are so absorbed in enjoying our body and our mind and our, possessions and the material world, out of kindness, Krishna will give another opportunity to enjoy the material world, namely another birth in the material world. So we cannot cheat Krishna. Prabhupada said one time, even if we are attached to a rasagolla, we'll have to come back. Like this. So these are some of the thoughts that came to mind as I was going through the verses and the chapter summary like that. How amazing examples we have. We are so fortunate actually, because if we just read the Srimad Bhagavatam, Caitanya Charitamrita, we have so many examples to follow. Even I was reading in Journey Home, recently Radhanath Maharaj's Vyasa Puja, my wife's spiritual master, where it says Maharaj would meditate on this rock on Ganges, on Ganga, and he pretty much, sadhu. He gave up everything, and he would just sit in the blazing sun from morning to evening, uh, in the middle of Ganga on this rock. But then he had this overwhelming desire to play his harmonica, which is unusual because a person who's given up so much, what is that, This overwhelming desire to play harmonica. So he ran back to his space where he was staying and he picked up the harmonica like that and he wanted to play. But then, Maharaj, being an extraordinary person, he just threw it in the Ganga as, one last attachment. And then, after the fact, Mother Ganga actually chanted the Hare Krishna mantra to Maharaj. I mean, how amazing is that? It's like unbelievable almost. But he was so determined to attain a higher consciousness, to attain God, that he renounced even, whatever the last small thing that he was having in his possession. Then immediately he had reciprocation. Like that, Krishna and the devotees, our spiritual master, are not going to interfere with us, and we're not going to experience higher taste as long as we are attached to enjoying the material world. I mean, we'll be like nice, pious ladies and gentlemen or something where we chant some mantras and give some charity, but we're not going to experience God. We're not going to experience that Anandam Buddhivardhanam that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was talking about. Till we are completely willing to let go. So these are the pastimes. I mean, there's so many more, but considering the time, I would like to stop here. If any of you wonderful devotees like to ask any questions, or please share some realizations or comments like that, please.
Jai, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you so much for accepting our request, coming on the call and sharing such a wonderful pastimes. You have shared so many pastimes about Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, about
Who
Bilwa
is this?
Mata. This is Kirti Das Sundari Dasi.
Oh, yes, Mata. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna, Prabhu.
Krishna.
So, Prabhu, just one quick thing. Like you were telling about when the pastime of Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, that he instructed Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur not to write books and not to preach, not to accept disciples, or Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj's Gurudev instructed him not to. Like I misunderstood something. If you can share.
Oh, yes. So, as we know, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he would say this, Gaudiya Mutt in Calcutta is not just like an ordinary Calcutta. It's actually the spiritual world. So, I mean, a disciple like on the status of Bhaktisiddhanta can understand the instruction of the guru, the point that, in other words, going to Calcutta to preach Krishna consciousness is not going to Calcutta. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would see his disciples as his spiritual masters. And he would say, like, Krishna has sent all these wonderful souls to me so I can train them. So he was seeing them as, he was seeing that he is the servant of all these disciples. So he was seeing them as his master. So in that sense, he was not accepting disciples in the worldly sense. And yeah, so in the mood of, actually what happened is Gaura Kishore Das Babaji told him, like, what are you doing, like printing and distributing books and like this? But one time, um, as we know, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was very intense, very, he was like, going into war against Mayavadis and Sahajiyas and like that. And he was receiving so many death threats and oppositions, and he was not popular among like common people. So he was feeling discouraged, but he had this vision, like a dream, but like a vision where they all came to him. Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Bhakti Siddhant, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, and Sad Goswamis of Vrindavan, Panchatattva, and they all came to him and said, please don't feel discouraged. You preach full force, and we are here to back you up, like that. And back in the day, 500, Chaitanya Charitamrita was 500 years ago. But even during Bhaktisiddhanta's time, there were no really like Chaitanya Charitamrita books. That's like, just like in ISKCON, so much mercy is available now that you can send somebody a Chaitanya Charitamrita set for like few dollars. But Bhaktisiddhanta's time, there was no such things. And he found a little clipping from the Chaitanya Charitamrita that came in the wind and hit his feet. It touched his feet, like, and when he read, it was a message from I forget which verse it is. But again, there were so many indications like this for him to continue preaching, distributing like that. So in that sense, he didn't disobey his guru's orders, but he understood what he really meant. And, he continued spreading Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Prabhu, for that clarification. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yes, ma'am.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dana Pranam and glories to Srila Prabhupada Maharaj. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for your very, very inspiring class, Prabhuji. You don't have any questions? Thank you so much. Is any other devotee have any question or comment for Prabhuji?
Yes. So speaking about preaching and book distribution and like this, so now we're going through this December book marathon, and devotees all over the world are distributing books, and Vaisheshika Prabhu is spearheading this project to distribute 2 million Bhagavad Gitas worldwide. I mean, one time during Prabhupada's time, they distributed 17,000 books, and Prabhupada was so happy. I can imagine how happy Prabhupada and the Acharyas must be that we are desiring as a world team to distribute 2 million Bhagavad Gita. That will definitely please the Acharyas. And we can all of us do our small part. Namely, like, we can get some Gitas and give them to whoever we come across. Or you can sponsor some books, like myself, humbly, I'm going out and distributing books every day of this month. and like this. So if you're able to sponsor some Gitas, I'm sure you're all doing that already or able to distribute. But it's just a reminder, like a humble reminder, that this month is very special. December, we should go out of our way extra to uh, distribute Prabhupada's books.
One thing, Prabhuji, I want to ask you. This is Kirtida again. Like I've been seeing your post also that how you are going daily out for book distribution. So during this COVID times, isn't it that that people who are coming in contact, are they reluctant to see the books, or they are quite receptive, or they are open when you show them the book? So how the situation is working at your end, Prabhu?
Yes, I mean, they're very receptive in the sense that people are humbled. That people thought, like, we are on top of the world with Google and Amazon and Apple products and Bitcoins and like this. We're really like doing fantastic, but a worldwide pandemic, people are like, most of them are confused, most of them are like fearful. So just to come across us that we are not like, freaked out about this thing, and we are going on with our service, so that kind of gives shelter to people and they appreciate that. And I find I'm distributing more books in the last months than I was last year this time. So again, it's all about our enthusiasm, because book distribution means they're buying a piece of you. They want something that you have. They're not really buying the books, so to speak. They're buying, they're saying like, oh, I want that thing that you have, that makes you smile, that makes you enthusiastic, that makes you friendly and gentle, and so many things that the book distributors are displaying. So in that sense, I don't see any problem in terms of book distribution. It's going on, and again, devotees have figured out other ways to distribute books online and phone calls and like this.
Yeah, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Mata.
Please forgive me, Ji. Satsang Prabhuji, I have seen so sincerely your determination to preach Srila Prabhupada books, Prabhuji, standing outside the Patel brothers and 5 points with Balbhadra Prabhuji, and we all are doing Kirtan, and you are distribute Srila Prabhupada books, special mercy of Srila Prabhupada, and you are so strong determination, Prabhuji. We trust you that in this winter or in this pandemic time, also you are doing more and more sincerely seva, Prabhu. Koti koti dandavat pranam to your seva. Jai Jai Nityananda, Jai Jai Gauranga. We definitely we pray and we will try to help you for Shishi Bhagavatam and Shishi Bhagavad Gita. Koti koti dandavat pranam. Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. And
Thank
please
you.
give your association regularly. How nicely you narrating today's class, Prabhu.
Yes, what happened is, Mata, we started a takeaway, Govindas. We don't call it Govindas, we call it Yummies, because the area where we are is mostly African Americans. And we are basically we are serving prasadam, 5 days a week. And we have a little baby, 9 months old, and our sadhana and cooking and cleaning and shopping and book distribution like that. So it's pretty much no time. Of course, this is Krishna service. I shouldn't say no time. Therefore, I'm trying my best to serve. But I'm just quickly explaining to you my situation. But whenever possible, I would love to get association of all you saintly devotees.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanavat Pranam. This is Vinita Gandharvika. Very beautiful class, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. And your
Hare Krishna.
Facebook page, whenever I read it, I never use Facebook much, Prabhu. Somehow, when I click it, when I see your book distribution, devotees sharing their realization, how the book has came to them, and it is so nice, Prabhu. We keep on reading only. We'll not come out of that page for some time because it's so many nice stories. How the books are changing everybody's life, and how you are able to, reach many people. Prabhu, thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you so much for encouraging me. Yeah, so actually, I wanted to end with basically it's also like really painful for me because whenever we talk about Bhakti Sangha and like this, my inspiration is Priti Vilasini Mataji, and this sad departure of Jagannath Srinivas Prabhu passing away, it also, it's kind of, I didn't even want to like talk about it, or it's really like still painful, and it brings back mixed feelings like that. That's also like one of the reasons. Like lately, like devotees approach me saying like, "Oh, can you come on Zoom to discuss, about Prabhu or like this?" But it's not easy for me. Even now, I can't believe that Mata is not there. At least I don't see her. So that's also one of the reasons I'm still like recovering from this news. I mean, I don't know if it's possible to even recover, but it's just unfortunate. But again, it's fortunate for a devotee whether he lives or passes away, because just changing geography, changing location. Like I used to serve in New Zealand and I used to serve in LA. Now we're serving in Georgia, like that. A devotee may be, changing bodies, but the service is guaranteed, which is such a beautiful promise from Krishna. So that's also one of the reason I'm just like running away from any invitation from this thing, because I don't even know like if I'm explaining properly, but it's what I'm saying is I'm really like still like sad about Prabhu passing away, and anything to do with Bhakti Sangha means it, Mataji, and then it brings back me the whole um, like memory and like that. At least I'm still healing. So if anybody else have anything, please share. If not, we can end here.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, yes, we can end the call, Prabhuji, if nobody has any question or comment. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for coming and giving your association. Now we can end the call. Vansakalpatarvesya. Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, His ki jai, all assembled Vaishnava ki jai. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Bye.
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Good